The sandwich that changed everything. A story of kindness, destiny, and a heart made of gold. The city of Chicago never truly slept. Even at dusk, when the amber streetlights flickered to life, and the evening rush painted the sidewalks with hurrying shadows, the city hummed, restless, relentless, indifferent to the small dramas unfolding in its corners. Maya Reyes had learned that lesson the hard way. At 24, she worked double shifts at Magnolia Bistro, a mid-range restaurant on Michigan Avenue that smelled of garlic butter and fresh bread. She wasn't chasing a dream here, not exactly. She was paying off her mother's medical bills, sending money home to her younger brother in Pilsen, and saving whatever thin sliver remained for the nursing school application she'd been delaying for 2 years. Her feet ached constantly. Her smile, however, never wavered. That was Maya's gift, and sometimes her greatest burden. She couldn't turn it off, couldn't walk past suffering without her chest tightening like someone had wrapped a fist around her heart, which is exactly how she found herself crouching on a cold Chicago sidewalk on a Tuesday evening, holding out her only sandwich to a little girl she had never seen before. It had started like any other shift. The lunch crowd had been brutal, a corporate group of 14, 3 separate birthdays, and a woman who sent her soup back 4 times, claiming it was too hot, then too cold, then too hot again. Maya had run herself ragged, pocketing just enough in tips to feel optimistic about the electricity bill. By 6 o'clock, the bistro had quieted. Her manager, Don, a heavy-set man with permanent coffee breath, had told her she could take her break. 20 minutes, Reyes. Don't disappear on me. Never do, she said, untying her apron and grabbing the sandwich she'd packed from home. Whole wheat, turkey, avocado, and a smear of Dijon mustard. Her one luxury. She'd been thinking about it since noon. She stepped outside into the cooling evening air, breathing it in like someone surfacing from water. That's when she saw her. A little girl, no older than 5 or 6, sitting alone on the concrete curb near the alley beside the restaurant. She wore a gray wool coat, 2 sizes too big, a denim skirt, pink socks, and small white sneakers that had seen better days. Her dark hair was pulled into 2 pigtails, slightly uneven, like someone had done them in a hurry. She wasn't crying. She was just sitting there, watching the street with wide, serious eyes, the kind of eyes that had seen too much quiet sadness to bother with tears. But what made Maya stop completely was the way the little girl's gaze drifted to Maya's sandwich. Just once. Quick. Then she looked away as if ashamed for wanting. Maya stood still for 3 full seconds. "Don't get involved," said the practical voice in her head. "You have 20 minutes. You're hungry. You don't know this child. Her parents are probably around the corner." But the other voice, the one that had always been louder, the one her mother called her conscience with no off switch, said something entirely different. She walked over and crouched down. "Hey, sweetheart." Her voice was soft, the way she spoke to frightened animals and nervous customers. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The girl looked at her. Up close, she was beautiful. Round cheeks, dark almond eyes, a small button nose. There was intelligence in her gaze, and something guarded. She shook her head slowly. "Not lost," she said quietly. "Waiting. Waiting for who?" A pause. "Daddy." Maya glanced up and down the sidewalk. Businessmen striding past. A couple arguing near a parked car. Pigeons fighting over a pretzel. No one paying attention to this child. "How long have you been waiting?" The girl shrugged her tiny shoulders. "Long time." Maya's stomach dropped. She looked at the sandwich in her hand, then back at the girl, at the way those small fingers were folded neatly in her lap, at the careful, dignified way she held herself even while clearly hungry. "Have you eaten today, honey?" The girl's eyes dropped to the sidewalk. That was answer enough. Without hesitation, without a single calculation of cost or consequence, Maya held out the sandwich. "Here, this is really good. Turkey and avocado. Do you like avocado?" The girl blinked. "I don't know." "Well, there's only one way to find out." A small smile. The first one. It transformed her entire face. She took the sandwich with both hands, the way children do when they're trying to be polite about something they desperately want, and took a bite. Her eyes went wide. "It's good," she said, with absolute sincerity, as if this was the most important review she had ever given. Maya laughed, a real one. "I know, right? I make them myself." She sat down on the curb beside the girl, ignoring the cold concrete against her uniform skirt, and they sat together in companionable silence while the city roared around them. "What's your name?" Maya asked. "Lily," the girl said between bites. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Maya." "Maya," Lily repeated, trying it out. "That's pretty too. Thank you." Maya looked around again, unease creeping up her spine. "Lily, does your daddy know where you are right now?" Lily nodded. "He said wait here. He went to get the car. He always takes long." She said it without bitterness, just fact. The fact of a child accustomed to waiting. Maya stayed. She didn't go back inside when her 20 minutes were up. She didn't think about Don's impatience or the dinner crowd beginning to filter in. She sat on that cold curb with a little girl named Lily and talked about avocados and pigeons and whether clouds were really made of cotton candy. They're not, but they look like it. Until she heard footsteps approaching fast. "Lily, oh thank God." Maya stood quickly. The man walking toward them was tall, over 6 feet, with short dark hair silvering at the temples and the kind of lean, composed build that suggested discipline rather than vanity. He wore a charcoal suit that cost more than Maya's monthly rent. No tie, top button open. His face, sharp jaw, pale gray eyes, somewhere in his late 30s, was tight with controlled panic, the expression of a man who rarely showed fear and was furious at himself for feeling it. He crouched in front of Lily, gripping her shoulders gently, scanning her face. "Are you okay? I told you to stay by the door." "Which door, Lily?" "The restaurant door, not the alley." "I was bored," Lily said serenely, finishing the last corner of the sandwich. The man exhaled, sharp, relieved. Then he looked up at Maya. His eyes were striking. Not warm exactly, but intensely focused, the kind of gaze that made you feel like the only person in a room, or on a sidewalk. "Was she with you?" he asked. "I found her sitting alone," Maya said. "She said she was waiting for you. I just kept her company." He stood to his full height. Something shifted in his expression, the sharp executive edges softening by a degree. "She had your food," he said, nodding at the wrapper in Lily's hand. She was hungry. Maya said it simply, without performance. It wasn't a big deal. He looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her bistro uniform, her practical shoes, the small kindness of a woman who had given away her only meal without expecting anything in return. "It is a big deal," he said quietly. "To me." He extended his hand. "Ethan Cole." She shook it. His grip was firm, his skin warm against the evening chill. "Maya Reyes." "Maya Reyes," he repeated, as if filing it away somewhere important. "Daddy," Lily tugged his sleeve. "She makes her own sandwiches. She taught me about avocado." Ethan looked down at his daughter, then back at Maya, and for just a moment, just a flash, something almost like a smile crossed his face. "Is that so?" Maya went back inside to face Dawn's irritation and the dinner rush with an empty stomach and somehow, inexplicably, a lighter heart. She forgot about Ethan Cole, or tried to. He came back the next evening, not to the alley, to the restaurant. He sat in her section. She was almost certain it wasn't a coincidence, and ordered coffee and the chicken piccata, and when she brought the check, there was a folded note beside a tip that made her breath catch. "The tip is for the excellent service. The amount is for the sandwich. EC." The amount was $300. She almost choked. She looked up, but he was already gone. He came back Thursday, and the following Tuesday. Always her section. Always coffee, always something from the menu, always a tip that was too generous and a conversation that was too brief, but somehow left her thinking for hours afterward. He was not an easy man. He was precise, quietly demanding, and said exactly what he meant with an economy of words that felt almost rude. until you realized he was simply paying you the respect of not wasting your time. But he asked about her, not in the performative way of men who wanted to seem interested, in the precise, paying attention way of someone who actually listened. He remembered things she mentioned once, that her mother was recovering from hip surgery, that she was saving for nursing school, that her favorite part of the job was the 10-second moment when she brought someone food and watched their face change. "Why nursing?" he asked one evening, when the bistro was half empty and she was refilling his coffee without being asked. "Because you can't charm away pain," she said. "You have to actually fix it." He looked at her over the rim of his cup. "That's a more sophisticated answer than I expected." "You should stop expecting less," she said before her brain caught up with her mouth. Genuinely, he smiled. It changed his whole face, cracked the marble into something warm and real and suddenly dangerously disarming. "You're right," he said. "I apologize." She walked away before he could see the color rise in her cheeks. The truth about Ethan Cole emerged not from him but from a customer 3 weeks later, a sharp-tongued woman in designer sunglasses who recognized him across the room and grabbed Maya's wrist as she passed. "Is that Ethan Cole? The Cole Industries Ethan Cole?" He's just a regular customer, ma'am." "Honey," the woman stared at her, "that man rebuilt the Chicago waterfront. His company is worth $3 billion. He hasn't been seen publicly since his wife died 2 years ago." She glanced back. "He looks different, less like a ghost." Maya stood very still. $3 billion. She looked across the room at the man quietly reading something on his phone. Tie absent, silver threading his dark hair, a cup of coffee growing cold beside him. The man whose daughter had eaten her turkey sandwich on a sidewalk. The man who kept coming back. She excused herself and went to the kitchen, where she gripped the edge of the steel counter and breathed. "It doesn't matter," she told herself. "People are people. He's just a man who lost his wife and has a little girl who likes avocado." But it did matter, in the way that all chasms matter when you're standing on the edge. She was a waitress with $4,200 in savings and a nursing school application she hadn't submitted. He was a billionaire rebuilding his life from grief. She went back out and refilled his coffee. Their hands brushed on the cup. Neither of them moved away. A month later, he asked her to dinner. Not at Magnolia Bistro. Somewhere else, he said, if she was willing. She stood in the middle of a Tuesday dinner rush, order pad in hand, customers at 3 tables waiting, and she looked at this quiet, complicated, unexpected man who had walked into her section and somehow refused to leave. "I should tell you," she said carefully. "I know who you are. The real you. Someone told me." He nodded slowly, unsurprised. "Does that change your answer?" She thought about it honestly, the way Maya Reyes did everything, without performance, without pretense. "It makes me more nervous," she admitted, not less interested. His gray eyes were steady on hers. "Nervous I can work with?" She smiled. "Then yes, dinner, somewhere else." Lily approved unreservedly. When Ethan told her, carefully, that he had a friend he wanted her to meet, Lily had tilted her head and asked, "Is it the sandwich lady?" He'd paused. "Yes." "Good," Lily said, and went back to her drawing. It wasn't a fairy tale in the glossy, uncomplicated sense. There were hard conversations and tender silences, 2 people carrying separate weights, learning how to share them. There was the grief Ethan hadn't finished carrying, and Maya's fear of falling into a world that wasn't built for her. There were moments of doubt and moments of startling clarity. But there was also Lily, who called Maya her best cooking teacher, and Sunday mornings with avocado toast, and a nursing school acceptance letter that Maya opened at Ethan's kitchen table, while he watched with quiet, complete pride. And there was this, most of all, a man who had everything the world said mattered, who had learned in the worst way possible that none of it meant what you thought. Finding, on a cold Chicago sidewalk, a woman who gave away her last sandwich without a second thought. Not because she didn't need it, but because someone else needed it more. The moral true wealth is not what you accumulate. It's what you give when you have little to spare. Maya didn't offer kindness because she expected a reward. She did it because it was right, because a child was hungry, because her heart simply could not pass by without responding. The greatest things in life, love, trust, belonging, are never found by chasing them. They find the people who have already chosen to live generously. Give without expectation. Live without pretense. The rest has a way of finding you,